that's kind of like what they do with children. You know, the parents will tell them, "Oh, you're not talking to anybody. That's just your makeup, your, makeup
imaginary friend."
And so the children are really hearing the spirits and seeing them, but what happens is the parents brainwash them to believe that they're not there, and so they grow up and they lose their gift. They lose their gift of speaking with spirits and animal spirits too.
Well, they say that usually happens, that the majority of children lose their intuitive abilities around the ages of 7 and 8 years old, because there's something...
Yeah, I was told by the time they were 5, between 3 and 5 is when they're most impressionable, and then shortly after 5 years old, they lose that ability. A lot of it has to do with the ones that are raising them. If they don't encourage that, then they do lose it. It's like a gift. If you don't work it, it's going to go away.
It's going to go away. That's what Sylvia Brown had mentioned that, and I remember her listening to her on TV one time, and she mentioned that, and that really made a lot of sense. It just made sense.
Lady Shadow, do you have this as well as with non-domesticated animals, like with deer or wildlife?
Oh, yes, I have.
I have
a few stories.
My mouth. That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Have you had the experience with
other animals?
Wild animals?
I have quite a few stories of weird happenings with me and wild animals, and a couple of them
give us an example.
Well, one example is I was feeling really depressed a couple years ago, and I was at the end of it. I just did not want to stay here anymore. So I made up my mind I was going to do it. So I go out into the woods, and I'm sitting there, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And these two birds, these two robins, they come flying out from nowhere, and they sit in this tree right in front of me, and they start squawking. They're just going crazy, going wah, wah, wah.
Wow.
And then I hear this noise, and there's this little squirrel. And she comes bounding along, and the two birds, they fly away. And this little squirrel comes up, and she sits a foot away from me. And she just sits there.
They can contact. They know that you're a contact. That you can hear them and understand them. That's why they come to you.
So what happened during that time?
Well,
what happened?
I don't know. The squirrel was sitting a foot away from me, and I don't know if I was scared that the squirrel was going to hurt me because I was in such a horrible state of mind at that time. But I got up, and I went to the house, and we have this large window here. And I was sitting in the window, and this blue jay smacks right into the glass by my head and scares everything right out of me, and I scream and I fall on the floor. And thinking back on it, it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, well, that's kind of odd, Lady Vampire Shadow, because you know what they did? They whacked the brains out of you. Wake up, lady. That's what they did.
You're here for a reason, and we are your reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I got chills.
I'm trying to tell you.
So did I. I mean, it's amazing. And to think that these little creatures of Mother Earth came to her, like, they had to actually, like, you ever heard the old word, the old saying, smack upside the head and make some sense, have her some sense.
She's a porthole. She's a porthole.
Yeah. So that's what's going on, honey. They were looking out for you, and blessed be you're here because of those little, beautiful little animals.
And that same little squirrel, that same little squirrel, I go out in the woods. I go out in the woods, and that little squirrel follows me around.
How cute. To this day?
What?
Right now, at this point, that you're still there in that same area?
Yeah, I'm still in this house, and there's this really large tree falling down in the woods, and I go out there to meditate, and the little squirrel, she comes over, and she just hangs out around the area. And the last week or so, she's been coming up and sitting on the deck looking for treats.
Well, I think when she's there to protect you. So she basically is there to make sure you're not going nowhere.
Sounds like she's looking out for you.
Yeah. I know it may be a little hard for you to. I don't know. I just pray that you can. I'm trying to vision this.
because I do believe very strongly in this kind of gift. Would you mind telling us about Tazzy? What happened with Taz and how did it happen?
Okay, well, first I want to give a little bit of background about the Rainbow Bridge.
Oh, yes. Please, I love Rainbow Bridge. Let's talk about it.
Well, the Rainbow Bridge, it's a lot of people have the theory about the Rainbow Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge is where our animals go when they die.
Oh.
It's supposed to be a great big meadow and just really beautiful. And when our animals die, they are freed from all illness, all pain. If they lost a limb in life, it's back, and they can just run for miles in this beautiful field. And the thing that gets me is that a lot of people believe in the Rainbow Bridge, and the Rainbow Bridge is where our animals go to wait for us. So it's almost like a limbo, I find.
It's actually, I'm sorry to interrupt.
They go to wait for us?
Star Raven.
Yes.
I hope I'm saying this right now. The reason why I asked for Star Raven because she's very, very psychic herself.
Yeah.
And she's very quiet tonight, but let me tell you why, you guys.
I'm afraid of breaking up. That's why I'm not saying anything.
No, you sound good now. You sound really good. And that's a blessing.